Here right now. Okay, we're recording Caliendo Sports Baseball Trip Italy 2023 with the group. Hey, we are 2 weeks away. You know what's great is it's amazing how fast 2 weeks away from departure, approximately. So time flies. Hopefully you're all excited. I've done this trip probably. I think I mentioned it to you. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of things that I already talked about at one time. But you know, I've been there so many times to Italy, probably 40, 50 times since I was 3 years old. And I'm always excited about going back there, no matter what, because it's just a great place. And I know we've had people that are going on a trip that have been in Italy before, or have been in Europe, or have been in other places, but specifically Italy. So they're familiar with it, which is kind of good because then during a trip, you know, they might have some advice for you and things like that. And you don't always have to ask our staff everything because you know they've been there. But we are there, just so you know, we're there to help you with anything throughout the whole trip. Once you arrive, you're with us. Sit back, relax, have fun, enjoy it. We'll take care of everything. We'll have the schedule. We'll make sure you have a good time. We can't obviously control the weather, but we can control a lot of other things. And as I told the young men yesterday, the players, the main thing about these trips, if you've been overseas, we and Coach Gurney mentioned it last night because I forgot. And the key word I use all the time: be flexible, right? Be adjustable. Be ready to adjust certain things. Adjust to the culture because you're no longer in the U.S. You know, we told the players this. Sarah posted WhatsApp. She's in the waiting room. Oh, she's in the waiting room. How come I don't see her? Sorry, Sarah. Hang on. Admit it all. Admit. My fault, folks. I didn't realize there's more people in the waiting room. Thanks for the message, sir. Appreciate it. Hang on, Mr. Bruto's joining. Is he on yet? Yeah, there he is. Brian's trying to connect. I'll wait. Brian, you there? Yeah, there you are. Okay, perfect. All right, we'll get started. We are recording. And I just start off just telling everybody, you know, it's unbelievable that the time's already up and we're ready to go in a couple of weeks. Hopefully you're all excited. I'm excited. I'm always excited. I've been there so many times. I love the country. I love the baseball there. And I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. And obviously we've got our coaching staff and they'll say a few things here in a little bit, but I just wanted to cover a few things. One, if you've traveled overseas before, you understand this already because you've been there. The cultures are different. I think we all get that. Cultures are different. We got to be flexible, meaning, you know, we're no longer in the U.S. So you're not, you know, what you're used to, your customs in the U.S., what you're used to. We have some great things in the U.S. That, you know, are easy for us to get, where that's not the case in Italy all the time. So we have to adjust. I'll go over just a couple of those. Some are in the emails. The key word is flexibility, obviously. You know, the flexibility meaning if you're out to, let's say you're out to dinner on your own, expect, you know, the food to come not fast, slow, very slow, right? They take their time. They're probably making it fresh for you. But they take their time. They're not worried about running tables like we do in the U.S., right? My wife was a waitress, and you know they kind of turn the tables over, right? Because they got to make more money. The Italians aren't worried about money. What they're worried about is relaxing more than anything, enjoying life. They're not trying to make more. Sometimes, like we are, you know, we fall in that trap a little bit. I got to make more. I want to buy more and all that. They're not like that. So what's going to happen is when you're at the restaurant, it's going to take some time when you have to get, first of all, to get the order, to get the waiter there, and then also to have the order. Everybody speaks English pretty much in the tourist area, so you don't have to worry there. Just be cautious of the restaurants, make sure that the prices are listed. That's one of the things there. But little things like ice, you're not going to, you know, ice isn't that easy to get in Italy. Why? Because one, they don't believe in it. They don't think it's good for you to put in your cold drinks, but two, electricity. So, you know, when you expect, you know, you order something with ice, you may have to ask for it. You know, can I get some ice in my drink? It's not so common in Italy. So those little things that maybe we're accustomed to here, you know, things like the internet. So hotels have internet, but not going to be the best. So sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You may have to go to the lobby. And if you've been anywhere in the world, it's like that, unless you're in Japan or Taiwan. Um, the internet's not always the strongest. Things, you may not be accustomed to. The air conditioning. Air conditioning is not always the strongest. And when I say strong, I mean Arctic air like we have, right? You go to our hotel, you could put that baby on Arctic air and it's freezing in there right away. That's not the case in Italy. Even though these are nice hotels, they shut the air down during the day when we're gone. So a lot of times what we try to do is call them up and say, we're going to be there in an hour. Can you turn the air on into the rooms? But you may end up getting there and they forgot to do your room. So things like that you may have to be flexible with. So again, that's a key word, the culture. We'll talk more about the culture. Keep in mind, we travel as a group, right? Once you get to Rome, we'll have instructions for you a couple of days before, instructions on how to take the shuttle. I don't want to give it to you too early because you'll lose it in emails like I do. I lose my emails also. So you'll know 2 days before. You'll also be on WhatsApp on how to communicate when you're flying. Expect possible this year flight delays. I'm sure you've read the news, you've seen the news, you've seen all the flight delays going on. Hopefully not. Last year everybody was on time, everything went well. You never know. You may have some delays. You could have a cancellation. You just communicate through WhatsApp, and there's many ways to do it. WhatsApp, text. I'm on Facebook. You can message me. Just type my name in. There's many ways to communicate, so that way I know where you're at when you'll be arriving. Once we arrive at the hotel, you check in. Remember, check-in probably won't be till 2:00. Now, if you get there, some of you are arriving. I've got your flights. You're arriving at 7:30 in the morning. Some of you, and I'm going to send an email with the flight arrivals, and you don't have to confirm it, but if it's wrong, send me a message back. Okay. If you want to confirm it, that's fine. But I've got people arriving at 7:30, 7:55, 10:20, 10:55, 9:30, 1:05. So we got different times people arriving, just kind of keep me informed of your arrival time. You arrive at the airport. If you're using WhatsApp, and at the airport, they have free internet, so you can send a WhatsApp at the airport. And then maybe when you get to the hotel, say, hey, we've arrived. Depending what I'm doing, I'll come down and meet you, or I'll try to meet you, afterwards. We got a meeting that evening, 7:30. I sent the email on it. The day we arrived, rooms right above the registration desk, real simple. They speak English. We'll have a quick meeting. We'll go over a couple things. Coaches will meet with the players. They'll hand out the uniforms. We'll answer some questions. We'll kind of, get to know each other a little bit, just meet everybody. And then you can go out to dinner. And I'll explain all that when you're there. It's easy. You could either eat at the hotel on your own or go around about 3 blocks down where there's a bunch of restaurants, beautiful place. The Italians eat outside there. It's awesome. So that's a little bit on as far as the travel, how we're going to communicate with you, your arrival and all that. You shouldn't have to worry. You'll be able to communicate with us with no problem. And you have the instructions on the shuttle. We'll have those sent to you. WhatsApp, let the players know to get on WhatsApp also. So the communications, WhatsApp's awesome because what we can do is once, we get off the bus, before we get off the bus every day, we'll give you a schedule so you can prepare for the next day, but then we'll also WhatsApp the schedule so you have it. And then if you have any questions, because sometimes questions may come later, perfect. You send it on WhatsApp, boom, we answer it for you, and you're prepared for the next day. Also allows us to send photos for people back home. That's a good thing, right? They get a chance to see the photos. They get a chance to see the schedule, what's going on. I'll go over the schedule just in a second here. As far as expect it to be hot. Obviously, it's a heat wave, but no matter what, it's going to be hot. It's always hot. It's not going to be real cool. Once in a while, we get lucky. It cools down. Most of the time, it's hot. So expect it. So prepare for that. And remember, on the tours, every day that we tour, we talk to the players about this. It's a different schedule for the players than they're used to because it's a little bit like professional college baseball. You're gone all day, right? We're up early in the morning. Breakfast could be 7:00, 8:00 departure, which means you got to be at the bus 1:45. We go sightsee. Luckily, our first day, we actually play in the morning. We were able to switch one game in the morning. We love to do them all in the morning, but the clubs can't do them all in the morning. Let's just say we sightsee first. Then you're lunch on your own during the day, in that town, wherever it is, whether it's Rome, Pisa, Venice, Florence, Verona, which is a beautiful city, probably one of the most beautiful cities in Italy. After lunch, back on the bus, we meet up. We're off for a game. All right. Players will change at the field. There's clubhouses there. They'll change, have a game. Then we're off to dinner, either dinner on your own or dinner as a group, depending on how it's scheduled. That's a long day, okay? Especially with the heat, walking. They're walking tours, and unfortunately, and it's like this, we're all tour buses. They cannot park, they cannot drive into the city. They can't park in the city. So there's a special location where all the buses drop off the tours, where our tour guide meets, and then we walk a certain portion, depending, and it could be lengthy depending on the city and the tour in the city. So we have a tour guide, and the tour guides understand, obviously they know it's hot, they're going to take their time, but they're also going to try to find a shade to walk, but be prepared by having good walking shoes. Okay. I've had people that come in flip-flops, like this thin. I don't know how they do it. And Coach Gurney said last night, you could be walking on some Roman, ruins where Caesar walked. Those rocks are not exactly very stable all the time. But have good shoes, right? Have a hat on, if it's not a hat, maybe a small umbrella, whatever you like to use, sunscreen, in case you get into the sun, and a water bottle. Just have those things so that way you're more comfortable, and it's easier for you when you're walking. The tours, unfortunately, are walking tours. We tell the tour guides, try to keep it to a limit. Give us the highlights, but also we don't want to be rude, and I don't want to be rude either, because they take a lot of pride. And we told the players this last night. They take a lot of pride when they give tours in their country, in their city. And they know it inside out. Matter of fact, not only do the tour guides know it, you could pretty much ask any Italian about their history. They got it down. Any city, they know the history of their country. So again, that's important to them. I know sometimes it can be boring to some, and trust me, I'm one of them, because sometimes I get bored because they're talking about, Caesar's grandmother and her grandfather, and mentioning names and all these different people that you're really not going to remember. It's really not as important as it is the highlights of the tour, or highlights of what actually happened in those areas. Beautiful country, unbelievable sights, obviously, great food, romance, history, you name it, it's got it all. But their culture is a little slower. They take their time. They're not in a hurry, as I mentioned before. So just be prepared for the tours. I think that's important. All walking tours. Hotels. I just mentioned, I sent a quick email. Sometimes when I remember something, I just want to send an email out in case you get a chance to read it. If not, we'll mention it during our trip. But the hotels are a little different sometimes, because one, we have to give them their passport. So when you're checking in to the hotel, they're going to ask you for your passport. So be ready for that. They're going to make a copy of it, and then they'll give it back to you. That's for security reasons, for the local police. That started in days of terrorism. Then when you get to the next hotel, they're going to ask for the passports again. Sometimes we try to avoid them by sending the list ahead of time, passport numbers. So if we do that, then we'll let you know. But if not, we may have to give the passports every time you check in. Now, we'll go in at the hotel. I'll go in, or Angelo, my partner, and he will hand out the keys as you're coming in. And if he needs the passports, we'll collect the passports at the time. Keep in mind, the hotels, a lot of them only have one elevator. It's not like, you got 5, 10 elevators that you're available to go into. The Rome Airport Hotel has 2 elevators. So sometimes it does take a little time to go up. Remember, we're in 4 hotels, right? We arrive, we're in Rome at the airport, which is about 8 minutes away, 5 to 8 minutes away from the airport. It's right there. Then the next morning, so that day you arrive, we'll remind you, don't unpack everything. Only unpack what you need for that day. You don't need much because you got a meeting, maybe go to the pool, walk around and stuff, go eat that evening. Because the next morning we leave, and then we're going to check in another hotel outside of Rome. That's when we're at for a couple of days. So, and then after that, we're off to Padua, Rovigo, which is a 6.5-hour ride. And on that 6.5-hour ride, or a lot of our bus rides, that's the longest. We will stop on the highway for lunch, and like at a truck stop, and we'll eat at a truck stop. But it's not your typical truck stop. Coach Gurney can attest to that. And anybody's been in Italy, these are gourmet restaurants. They've got everything, and they've got everything for sale. Italian food, Italian chocolates. I mean, you name it, they got it all. Coffee, espresso. And by the way, I did have an espresso just now, just to prepare for this meeting for you. So sometimes we stop on the highways for lunch. That's another good experience. Again, we're always there as a group. We're there to help you, so don't worry if you haven't done anything, never traveled before. Just make sure you got a passport before you leave. Okay, make sure, do not forget your passport. That's a big problem. And make sure your passport is signed if you got a new one. They're getting real picky on that signature. They want people to have it signed, and I get it. They need to see a signature. Typical day is what I just mentioned. So for the players, it's going to be a little tougher. And we did tell the players that if you're playing really well right now and you get to Italy and you kind of slump a little bit, maybe you're not hitting as well as you want, or you're not pitching as well as you want. There's a lot of factors involved in that. I'm not making excuses. I just see it every year, because you're only there a certain portion of the time. And what happens is you maybe didn't get enough sleep, right? You didn't recover. You're in an uncomfortable situation. What do I mean by that? You're traveling, you're touring, you're playing, you're on the bus, you're gone all day. So there's a lot of uncomfortable things. You're playing on a field you've never seen before against players you've never met, which I know they've done that before, obviously, here back home. But it is much different than a tournament that you guys might be used to on the weekends. So we just told the players, don't worry about it. You're there for fun. You're there to have a good time. Coach is going to move the players around. They talked about that last night. It's going to be hot. We've got a trainer, Mr. Tauber, which is outstanding, certified. But the most important thing is to watch their safety, their arms, and their health. Okay. If we told them, if you're not feeling good, let us know right away. If something hurts your arm, let us know right away. It's not the end of the world. Come on out for a little bit. We'll take care of it. See what we can do. A lot of times players want to keep playing so they don't say anything, but this is important because we don't want to get anybody hurt. Pitch count's going to be important also. Coach Gurney knows all about that. So overall, that's pretty much in a nutshell kind of what happens every day. By day 2 or 3, you'll get it down and it'll just roll, right? The first day is always the toughest day to get accustomed. The first day when we're moving and going all day, kind of getting used to what we're doing. After day 3, it's going to be over, because by day 8 or 9, it's going to be done. It goes that fast. So just enjoy it. Take a lot of pictures, take in the moments, get photos with your families. We're there to help you take pictures if you need be. You're going to see some great sights. So it's just a great time. And a little bit about baseball in Italy. The clubs are not in every city. I think I mentioned it in some emails. It's not like soccer, basketball, lacrosse, or certain things that they have there, that they have. Every town has clubs. In Italy, baseball is spread out because it's not as many players. Only about 15,000 players throughout Italy that play baseball. Pretty good players at times. Competition, we never know. It could be good at one club, could be bad at another. Why? Because just like you guys are playing all summer, and the only time you can travel on a trip like this is August, and that's when we got to schedule it. Well, that's their time that they take a break at times too and take a vacation, so they may not have as many players. So we just never know competition-wise what we're up against. But if you play the game of baseball, you got to know how to play a game against good teams, against bad teams. Okay, and because the bad teams sometimes can make you play bad, well, you've got to know how to pick up your game a little bit and stay on top of playing well when you're playing teams that are not as good. And that's no different than when a pitcher throws real hard and another guy throws slow, and you say, well, I can't hit the slow guy. Well, that's not the pitcher's fault. That's your fault, because you need to be able to adjust to that. And that's what baseball is all about, right? You got to learn how to adjust. So that's kind of a little bit about baseball. Now, the way it works in the clubs survive on some sponsors, but not many, because it's hard to get. Imagine trying to be a sponsor of a team, a baseball team. Literally, what's your return? Not much. But the clubs try to get sponsors, so they have local banks or people they know in town to help them support the club. They kind of build their own fields. The city might help a little bit, and then they have concession stand, just like we do, right? I mean, they try to sell everything, whatever they can, whether it be wine, grappa, some food, sell T-shirts, caps. Every place has that. So what'll happen is when we get off the bus, the coaches and players will go onto the field. The parents will go, normally in the stands or behind home plate, walk around. You'll meet some people. I'll be there with you. The Italians are great. They're friendly. The clubs are awesome. I'll bounce back and forth with Coach Gurney to help on the field as far as any translation or anything that needs to be done there. And I'll come back and see the parents, hang out with you, anything you need, and that's pretty much. And it's pretty easy, right? And then after the game, everybody comes onto the field, parents included, because remember, this is one big team. We do everything together. The only time you're not together is obviously during the game. The players are on the field, but after the game, you come on because they're going to shake hands. They're going to give out a small little gift. And by the way, the gifts, it's just one little gift. It could be a pin. It could be a cap. Maybe your local minor league team from last year had some giveaways. I know I've done that many times. They got so many of them. You ask them, hey, we're going to Italy. We want to pass a few things out there in the games. They'll give them to you because they're 2022 on it. They can't give those away at the ballpark. Or maybe your city has something, or maybe you go into the local store and there's USA pins or something. It doesn't matter. Baseball cards. It's just a nice gesture. Have a couple maybe per game, which is not that many, 6 or 7 games. And then if you have more, that's fantastic because maybe there's extra players. You want to hand them out. We told the players also what will happen is they'll want to trade some stuff. Well, you can't trade your shirts, team shirts, because you're playing them in the games. You can do that the last day, but you might want to keep one of them because you want to get them signed by the players, but you might want to bring some T-shirts, something with USA on it or something from an area. And if a player says, I got a shirt I want to trade you, well, then maybe you got something to trade for it. So that's just another option there because the players will ask that. So when you're on the field, we're going to take pictures. Parents will take pictures of the two teams together, mixed up. We'll visit for a while, maybe take some individual pictures, then time to go. Why? Because we got to go eat. And if it's a scheduled dinner, we got to go because the chef's not waiting at the hotel or at the restaurant. So the games, unfortunately, as soon as we get there, we'll do our warm-ups, make sure they're ready. We're going to try to start the game as quick as possible because we want to try to get as many innings in as possible. But at a certain time, boom, we got to go and we go. And then, boy, then we start all over again, all over the next day. As far as laundry is concerned, I'm sure you've seen an email on that. If you haven't, really hard to do. Well, really tough to do in a schedule like this and can be very expensive at hotels. The jerseys that you use that evening or the socks and the pants, throw them in the tub, a little bit of soap, wash them, rinse them, hang them. Because the next day you're using the second part of your uniform, and then you just reverse it the next day, same thing. Don't worry about, if you don't have gray pants, not the end of the world. They could be white. If they have a stripe on the side, don't worry about that. I get it. Uniforms are important, and yes, we want to look good, but it's not a big deal because I don't want to overshadow a lot of the Italian teams either. It's not like they're coming out with fantastic uniforms. Uniforms are expensive in Italy, so it's hard to get depending on the club they're in. So if one blue line on the side of your pants stripe isn't going to make a difference if you have a blue stripe and somebody else doesn't. The bats, been asked about that. Aluminum bats. Why? Because you don't want to carry wooden bats with you. You're gonna have to carry 2 or 3 in case they break. That's just going to add to your bag. How do you pack? Big question, Kim, is how do you pack your bat bag or your bag as a player? Because you're going to have either catcher's equipment or you're going to have your bat and a helmet, because the glove you want to put in your carry-on bag. If you have a bag, like a equipment bag, then that's where you put your bat and your clothes also. So that way you only have to check one in. Obviously, if you have a bat bag only and it's smaller and you've got some stuff in there, then you're going to need another bag for some clothes. Players do not need a lot of clothes. It's extremely hot out. So basically a shirt, shorts during the day when they're touring. Even in the evening, they could wear shorts, maybe with a polo shirt, that's fine. Or even a regular shirt, as long as it's nice, when they come to dinner. What do you need? 3 or 4 of those, 5 of those, and maybe 2 pairs of pants or 3 pairs of pants. I wouldn't overdo it, be honest with you, because again, you just save on luggage and all that. I sent a list of, there's just one email. I'll send it one more time in a week if you want. That's the one that explains how to pack in case you're not sure exactly what to bring. Okay. Remember, carry-on bag on the plane, check-in bag that you check in. The carry-on bag, have some things in there that if they lose your bag, you've got something to dress with. Okay. So on the carry-on bag, you definitely your glove, uniforms we're bringing, giving out to the meeting in Rome the first day. Pack some underwear, t-shirts, shorts, one pair of shoes, and some toiletry. So that way you've got it in your carry-on onto the plane in case they lose your check-in bag, because that can happen. If you have a nonstop flight, a little easier. Sometimes they don't lose it as easy. Airlines have been pretty good. I've traveled to 50 countries, been all over the world, and lately the airlines have been really good. I mean, cross my fingers, they haven't lost too many bags. It's a complicated system. So in a nutshell, I hope, I know I rambled on a little bit, but I hope that I gave you an idea of what the itinerary is. We're one group, we're together, we'll lead you. Anything you need, just ask. Any questions you have, just ask. Don't worry about it. I teased you a little bit in the email. I said, I sent that in an email because you just asked a question about it. I'm just having fun with you. I do the same thing. I get a lot of emails. It's not possible to read them all. And even if you did read them all, you can't remember it all. Okay. So that's why we're there to help you in anything else. Don't be afraid to text me anytime before the trip. Ask me any questions or email. You're not bothering me. Remember, we're a profit-making business. We're a service business. You're our clients. We want to make sure we take care of you. Yes, it's a fun trip. It's a cultural trip. It's a great experience for all, but we are there to help you. Now, the coaches will handle everything on the field. Our staff will handle everything off the field, and then we work together, especially during the tours, because one thing about the tours, keep your kids close to you, okay? We're going to have somebody behind the tour, the group, and somebody in front with the tour guide. Why do we say that? Because remember, it's August, and people have not been traveling that much, and everybody's traveling now, which means there's going to be a lot of tours. And if there's a lot of tours, it's packed. And the last thing we need is we're walking, and then you're kind of taking a picture, and then you can't find the group anymore. Now, WhatsApp comes in handy there, but more importantly is the last couple people in line. Might be a couple coaches, might be our staff in front and behind, making sure that everybody's together as a group. You'll get plenty of chances to take pictures. Remember, you'll have in every city approximately a couple hours at least to walk around on your own and to grab some lunch. Lunch is what we tell people normally is just, there's a bunch of places you just stop along the way and grab a pizza. Pizza's awesome, slices of pizza or a sandwich, or man, they got everything. It's just great food. Grab a gelato if you haven't had gelato. It's Italian ice cream. It's not called ice cream because it's got less fat in it, and it's all natural. But that's one of their famous things in Italy is their gelato as far as their meals. All right, Coach Gurney, I have talked way too much here. And I know we're going to have some questions. If you have some questions, I'm like Coach Gurney say things. And then if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. And then we'll pick them up there. So that way you don't have to worry about saying them. And then if Coach Balliet has anything to say. So Coach Gurney, you're on.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's excited for the trip. I wanted to start with a quick story. I literally just got home. I was at a college baseball summer league game recruiting a couple of junior college players. And sure enough, I saw Jonathan Russell, who went on the Italy trip in 2019. And the first he came running over to me, telling me about all these things he remembered from the Italy trip. And, we were reminiscing about some baseball, but mostly off the field stuff. And then on my way out, I saw his mother, who was at the game. And she told me, "You're not going to believe it, Coach. I'm in touch with 3 of the other mothers from that trip. We go walking together. Look, we're on a group text." And there was when we were in Rovigo, which is probably a place we'll be on like August 9th, Pete, I think.
11th, I believe.
Yeah. So we met this little boy. He was probably 7, 8 years old. And one of the dads who I played baseball with years ago, who was on the trip with us, he was teaching the kid how to swing the bat better. And sure enough, that kid is in touch with one of the moms, Mrs. Surhoff, Pete. And he's now on their national team and he's doing great. And so one of the moms from the Italy trip from Rye, New York, is still in touch with this boy who we met in Rovigo. Really cool. And I just thought I'd share that with you. And one of the moms that is in touch with Mrs. Russell is Sarah Cave, who's on the call. So she'd be a great resource. Sarah was on our Italy trip 2019. And Sarah, did you go to the trip to the Dominican in 2018?
Didn't, Ben did. I did not.
Ben did, yeah.
Okay. So, but Sarah's been on this exact trip with her older son, and she's very familiar with our trips. So feel free to use her as a resource.
Yeah, I'm gonna put, when I get tired, I'm gonna put Sarah in charge.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, she'll send shorter emails. I know that.
Yeah, no doubt. She knows how to write better than I do. That's a good thing.
So I guess that story was fun for me because I hadn't seen Jonathan Russell in a while, but it also really resonated with, sometimes these trips create international relationships, and maybe you folks will, get relationships going from your experiences in our 10, 11 days in Italy together. I did want to reiterate something Coach Caliendo said. And by the way, I call him coach a lot of times because he was USA baseball coach, which is the pinnacle of coaching for our country and coaching at the highest level of baseball. And he tends to be kind of modest about the baseball end of things. But, he's written books and he's as connected as anyone I know in the baseball world, probably more when you look at all his international connections. So, I like to think I know a lot of coaches, especially college coaches in the United States, but Pete dwarfs me in that regard. So he's a tremendous resource in the baseball world. I did want to reiterate the walking thing. I mean, I'm remembering, I like to think I'm in pretty good shape, but I was so exhausted when I finally got into my hotel room at night on this trip, on all his trips. And then getting out of bed in the morning, like I was extremely sore. And I generally travel with another coach by the name of Darren as well. And we joke around like how he's wearing us out. But I think one of the things you gotta be aware of is having really good walking shoes. And these days they make all these fancy shoes like On Cloud and Hoka and I don't know what else, but you should figure out what works for you. Everyone has a different shape, foot, width, and all that. And I would, we got 10 days roughly. I would go walking a lot. And maybe don't do it on a nice track in your suburban community. Maybe walk in a city, in an urban area, because that's where we're going to be doing a lot of our touring. And I know that sounds a little annoying, like, wait, I got to train to go on a trip, but it'll serve you well, right? We got a heat wave the next 2 days here in New York. I don't know what it's like in Illinois or down in Maryland where some of you are, but hey, go out in the heat tomorrow if you feel up to it and walk in White Plains, walk in New York City, get a taste of what we're doing because there's going to be a lot of that in Italy. And I don't know how many of you are used to going to museums and listening to tour guides, but it tires you out. It generally makes me very hungry. So she's telling me a story about Michelangelo, and I'm like, okay, so am I going to get spaghetti or am I going to get a sandwich at my neck? But so it makes me hungry, but it is exhausting. And we really want our players to make eye contact and pay attention. And that in itself is exhausting. So I guess what I would say is do whatever you can to prepare yourself for all this. So those are a couple of my suggestions.
Nobody's going on the tours now. So they're going to stay at the hotel. Let me add to that just real quick. Sorry, Coach. Give you an example. Rome, like the first day that we're going to play a game, but then now what's a good thing? I'm going to give you some good things. That evening is when we go to Coliseum. So it'll be a little bit cool the first day, all right? Because it'll be 4:30, 5 o'clock, start to cool down a little bit because we're able to switch the game. And, obviously you're going to be in the Coliseum. That's beautiful. The next day when we're in St. Peter's, you're lucky there. Why? Because that's indoors. Because that's, in the church and all that. So you're away from the long walks. As we get to places like, we'll be in Rovigo the 11th, by the way. But as we get to places like, Venice, that's a hot one because it's all concrete. and the boat stops, then we got a certain place to walk. We take the gondola ride, and then you're off on your own. That's a little easier when you're off on your own, but it's that one walk from the boat in Venice to the gondola area. So it could be 400, 500, 600 yards to get there. And then you're on the gondola, but then after that, you're on your own. So that's easy because everything's right there. It makes it a little easier for you. So there are some areas that are a little easier. Verona it can be a little tough. The other one's a little tough is Florence. Okay, so Florence is a little longer walk. I'm just trying to look here. Anything else that might be hard? That's mostly it. The Verona, if you didn't know, is a great shopping area too. It's got like a small Coliseum there, and it's a great shopping area. So there's, it's just a great little place. You'll love Verona. Florence is where you have the gold there. We have the bridge where they sell all the gold. And then they have a lot of stands that sell leather and a lot of great stuff. There's all good stuff, not cheap stuff that's outside. Unless you're talking about, if you see luggage and all that stuff outside, especially, and I'm not being mean here, but it's just a fact. You'll see there's a lot of Chinese places selling stuff. And you got to be careful because a lot of those things may be cheap, but they'll break after a while. We go to Murano in Venice. So we arrive into Venice. We go to Murano first, the island of Murano. That's where they have the glass blowing exhibition. So you'll see that personally. You get a chance if you want to purchase Murano stuff, and you can ship it back home, or you can bring it with you. That's the real stuff. When you go inside of Venice, because then we take a boat to Venice, you'll see a lot of stores. A lot of that stuff's not cheap. It's just cheaper things. It looks good. And if you just want to spend less money, that's fine. It's just if you're interested in the actual Murano crystal, which is the most famous one in the world, sold all over the world at all the famous shops, then you get that at the Murano place. So as far as the walking, yeah, there are, but there's a couple places that'll save you, like the Coliseum. The only thing on the Coliseum, we do see the Roman ruins there, and those are cool. That's where Caesar's house was and all that. So I think you'll enjoy that. But Coach, go ahead. I just want to kind of add that.
I don't know how much more I have. I mean, we covered a lot last night with the players on a baseball level, our expectations. You're representing our country. You're representing Coach Caliendo. You're representing your families. Really important to us. I think cell phone etiquette is something that we're going to stress. When I'm talking to the players on the bus, we expect eye contact, similar when there's a tour guide or on a tour. And understand, like, I think cell phone etiquette has actually gotten worse since COVID. There was a lot of that, staring at screens when teachers were teaching on Zoom, and then when they went back to school. And I don't know how your children are, but that's something that I'm a little stickler on. So we'll be talking about cell phone etiquette. Something important. By the way, Jonathan Russell, the kid I mentioned, I saw tonight. I mean, just so you know, he went on this trip, and he's now a Division I baseball player at a very competitive school, University of Hartford. And as Coach Caliendo mentioned, Dylan Cruz, arguably the best position player in the country right now, who just got drafted by the Washington Nationals with, I think, the second pick in the draft. Is that right, Coach Ballier?
Second pick.
Yeah, second pick in the draft. He did this trip to Cuba. So
Dominican.
Okay, Dominican, my fault. So point being, we get great players on these trips. It's a great baseball experience. It's not, just rec ball. Coach Ballier and I are not going to be rec coaches. Coach Santoro has a really strong background, and he has expectations of what proper baseball is on a field. And, Coach Talber, who is our trainer, he's trained many professional athletes, a couple of my guys who are playing, one was a Pro Bowler in the NFL, guys in the NBA. So, we expect from the players, a certain level of focus, and we'll just say professionalism. So I just want to kind of let you know that. I mean, Coach Ballier and I are not yellers and screamers, but we do have high standards for the game of baseball. And I just wanted to kind of point that out now.
We did mention also to the players that, they're being evaluated. Obviously, you're always evaluated, right? And what's great is between all the coaches that Coach Gurney was talking about, all of us, we have a lot of contacts, obviously, whether it's college baseball, anywhere else. So, if you need, if a young player needs some help and a recommendation, the coaches are happy to give them that. But remember that it's going to be a true evaluation. What I love about this trip when it comes to evaluation, because we always get this question, I think I mentioned it one time on the Zoom, we always get the question, do they get showcased or recognized? I think that's the word. But because they go to a lot of showcases, obviously, there's a lot of coaches there and they're seeing them and all that. This is a lot different. This, to me, this is even better than a showcase. Why do I say that? Because one, the number of contacts we have. Two, they've been evaluated in everything they do all day. How they dress, how they act, how they communicate with people, how they communicate with the players on the field, how they communicate with, people at the restaurant. When you walk down to the lobby and you go have breakfast, how do you handle yourself? What food are you eating? I mean, there's so many things that people are watching constantly, and they're doing it under a more difficult situation because they're not used to traveling all day under the heat and taking a tour and then playing a game, then going to eat dinner, then getting some bed. That's why we tell them, get rest and recovery as soon as you get back to the hotel, because if you want to produce the next day, two of the most important things are three: rest, recovery, and a great breakfast. If you got to have those three, and we'll make sure that it's mandatory breakfast in the morning. Eating the right things also helps too, right? Not just eating a bunch of junk, because that's not going to help you produce either. So all this, they're doing all this under extreme stress, let's say, a little bit more stress, and you're being evaluated under that. Where in a showcase, sure, you got some stress. I get it. I've been through it. I'm not like on a trip like this. So I think it's a good evaluation when you can see a young person for about 9 days, how they do everything all day. The other thing is, they got to pack the night before, right? They show up the field and, oh, coach, I forgot my glove. Well, that's not a good thing, is it? Whose responsibility was it? It wasn't your mom or dad that remember your glove. It was yours, right? Who's carrying the equipment? You are, nobody else, right? Who's packing all the stuff? You should pack it. Makes you think, makes you prepare for the next day. That gets you ready for hopefully college baseball or that. By the way, the reason we do the tours every day is because you're paying a lot of money. You're going to a great country, and we want you to experience Italy. Okay. We have to slow down a little bit. We'll slow down. We can make a few adjustments. The thing about buses, we leave on time all the time. Please understand, it's important everybody is early to the bus, and ready to go, because if we're late, then there's traffic, everything gets backed up. So we got a time schedule. Where it's relaxed is when you're on your own out to dinner, because they're not in a hurry. Or if we're in a group and we're going to the restaurant, they're not in a hurry to, feed you. That's okay. But as far as the bus is concerned, we got to leave at certain times. We got to be there. So that's extremely important. But because you're paying a lot of money, we want to make sure you see the highlights of Italy at least. Trust me. I mean, you go on a tour, you're going to be touring all day, morning, afternoon, and evening sometimes. The other thing is one more important thing. If you looked on the schedule, on the 15th, we are in Grosseto, 16th, excuse me, the day before we leave. Heading from Florence, we go to Grosseto, we stop on the way, we go to the beach. So, and then we play a game. Unfortunately, that's the way we got to do it. Bring a towel, just one towel, so you have it, because you won't be able to grab the hotel towel because we'll be gone from the hotel. And if they do, they're going to charge you. If we were at a hotel, you could just use their towel. So bring a towel, so that way you're able to go to the beach that day, that morning. Okay, so we'll drive there. It's a great beach, great place. Have lunch on the beach, and then we'll take and go to the game. Then we head to Rome. That's on the 16th. Then that evening in Rome, we have a final party at the end, big dinner outside by the pool at the hotel. Have a good time, and then say sayonara, which means goodbye. Everybody takes off the next day. So that's a couple things as Coach Gurney was talking, just wanted to mention. Coach Belliade, anything? We don't want to keep everybody out all night. Plus, I like to watch the Cubs White Sox game sooner or later before it's over. Just kidding. I enjoy being with you guys more.
No, I don't really have anything to add. Just really excited to be part of this.
Cool. Anybody have any questions? If you want, you can go ahead and put unmute or type it. Anything? If hopefully you've been, try to read. I know it's a lot of emails. I think there's just that one that's the most important, that just kind of goes over what to bring, what expect. Just one long email that I sent. I think that's the important one. The next important one will be the one 2 days before you leave, how to communicate with us and how to take the shuttle. Now, remember, I get in a day early. Coach, Mr. Artis, actually, they get in on the 3rd, so they'll be in a lot earlier. But I get out a day early, so I will videotape me coming off. And how, just to give you an example, you're going to get off the plane. You know, it's one way to go. They're going to take you through. Got to show your passport at the Italian customs. After passport, you go get your bags. In Italy, most of the time, unless they changed it, and notice sometimes I'm hesitant when I say something because things change there. But they usually have carts for you where you take a cart, go to the baggage claim, get your bags, go through customs again, or where the security's at. It'll say exit. If you have anything to claim, you got nothing to claim. In Italy, they don't check much. Watch now, they'll check everybody, but they usually don't check. They just let people go through. And as soon as you come out, just like our airports, there's a bunch of people there, right? You go outside, and then I'll have the video and the instructions, and you go to the right. There'll be a sign for the hotel shuttle, and it's across the street. When I say across the street, it's like 50 feet, 60 feet, and you wait there, okay? But I'll have the directions for you and everything, how to catch the shuttle, and you'll be able to communicate with me on WhatsApp. And that's really the most important email before you depart. Other than that, I don't have anything else. We're going to miss a lot of things because there's a lot about the trip, but I think we hit the highlights of it. And then, like I said, email anytime, text anytime, questions and all that. No more. Enjoy your evening, and see you in Rome. No? All right, everybody. Hey, oh, by the way, before you go, if you're a wine drinker, fantastic. Don't worry if you're not. If you're not a drinker at all, don't worry about it either. Okay, you don't have to drink anything. Once in a while, we will let you taste some special stuff in Italy, sometimes on the bus, sometimes at the hotel. We will have a special wine tasting thing for you in Florence at the hotel. Angelo, our driver, you're going to love him. He's one of the best. 20 years I've known him. We've worked together. He's like a brother. He actually is a brother. I have two brothers, mine and him. I trust him with my life. You will love him. He's not just a driver. He's not just the owner of the company, his bus company, because we partner together. But he is part of the team, and he'll do everything for you. He's hilarious. And even though he speaks cut like a broken English a little bit, not many words, he'll communicate with you with no problem. And he's also I don't know what you call it in the States, but a person who goes around and does wine tasting as a living. So he studies it and knows wines and knows how. So be careful if you drink wine in front of him, don't guzzle it and don't fill a big glass, okay? Because he's going to come after you, because wine is, it's a shorter glass and it's tasted slowly, and he'll explain all that. And in the mornings, if you're at a restaurant and you order espresso cappuccino, no problem. If you order a cappuccino in the evenings, the waiter will look at you weird, but he'll know that you're a foreigner, so he'll let you go. But that's a couple more customs that they have, and they'll have some fun with you. All right, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye. See you, Coach.